deploying a service or application on EDITO. I set up this this repository here for this workshop. So we have here under Add Service, I've put this part here where it's the application that I made that I refined a bit since yesterday. And I also have the slide deck here in Markdown, and that's what I'm presenting today. So, you know, it's just so that's it's all one place, you know, that you have this documentation and the tutorials. So let's go into the presentation. So we will Willem talked a bit about yesterday, and so I talked about deploying a tutorial on EDITO. So when we are adding a tutorial JSON, and then Willem talked about the other and kinds of things that are offered on the data lab. So we have services and we have processes. Services tend to be, we would describe it as something that's like, it's not necessarily a model or a calculation. That's more appropriate to use in a process from one place to another. And tutorial is more instructional. It's still a bit interactive, but a service is something you want to, in a controlled environment, you want to offer an application or or some kind of service or model to someone, but there's some interactivity. But you want to be repeatable. That's the key part, and that's the key part about deploying it on EDITO. So today we'll go briefly over Dockerizing, just with a simple, this is our Python. Well, just with a simple example, we'll push the image to a public repository. We'll talk about configuring Helm charts. We'll learn just a little bit about that. It's not essential that we learn everything about that. We'll talk about how we push it onto the EDITO service playgrounds, and then how we get it into EDITO with a merge request. So this is the application that I touched over yesterday. It was a little bit messier. I cleaned it up a little bit. So let's just pretend that I had RStudio on my PC. I have it just on EDITO. So this is the application here. So then we do run app local. And so now we have this this Parquet viewer again. So I have something that I could run. Let's pretend that I'm running this on my PC instead of on EDITO. So I have something that I can run locally, and I'm just like, okay, this is it's slow, but it's a Parquet viewer service that I would like to offer to people so that they can have an interactive table where they could view Parquet files and when they could view them on a map. So I want to push this onto EDITO. So what I will do, because it's not instructional, it doesn't just perform a specific calculation or run a model, we'll add it as a service. So I'm like, in order to share it with everyone, I will Dockerize it. So this is the Docker example of how I made this application, how I could build it. And then at another point, I could push it to a Docker repository, and anyone can use it. So this is the application now. It's finally loaded. It's a bit slow, but it's like, okay, then I can put stuff on the map. And oh, it's not showing. But the point is that if I build the Docker file and I push it somewhere, that anyone can use it at a different point. So first, I made a container registry. I put a link to this on GitHub. And then you also need to set up a token so that you can push stuff onto your container registry. And once you have that token, once you have a place to put your packages, then this is what you can do. With that Docker file that we made, we can build it with the name of our container registry here and our username. We export the token that we got, and then we log in to that container registry with our username and this password. And then what we can do is that container that we made, we can push it onto the container registry. So let's say that I've developed a bit more on this, that I've made a couple other versions of it. So what anyone can do, basically, is they can, I'll just go to my containers here. So I don't have this locally anymore. So anyone on their PC, or in this case, I'm running a Linux machine, but anyone with Docker or in any Kubernetes container, which is what EDITO uses, it can pull this image and it can build it and it can run the same application. That's the point. So we'll now go into where we add this application. So now let's say that we've gone through all these steps. So we have our application, we've Dockerized it, we've pushed it to a public repository so that even at this point right now, anyone anywhere can have it, which is already actually really just a great thing in general. They have a reproducible application that I've made. And voila, same thing, local or Docker. So now we're just like, okay, I'm going to publish this to the EDITO services. So I will go to the service playgrounds. So I'll go here to this repository, and I'll be quite honest, I used a lot. I think that the documentation here is actually pretty good in this README. In general, if you're following this, you should be okay. There's some stuff that talks about customizable ingress, the ways that you can access the container, secrets that you can give it. You can for sure read further into the documentation if you think that that's pertinent to you, but many people, at least in my experience from just getting an application, if you're just doing what I did and you're making a shiny application, it just needs to port out to a certain container, and people can get inside it and look and run the application. So a lot of times you don't need to make it super complicated. So we'll clone the repository. We will make our own branch. So in this case, I would call it Parquet Viewer R. I will push that branch to the GitLab. And then what they recommend, and it's a good recommendation, is to copy. So this in the main, there's this Terrain map viewer, and this is just a good basis example where it has the components in it that will need to change in order to push our service onto EDITO. So this is where we go into a bit of this is a deep dive or a deeper dive further than you need to go, but this is just so here if it interests you. So EDITO runs a Kubernetes cluster, basically. Those are composed of pods. Think of them like very small machines that are running on a large cluster that can talk to each other very well. Services goes a little bit into it, but don't confuse it with the datalab deployment services. It's just a way of exposing the pod to the network. And the way that we deploy things consistently on the cluster is via Helm charts. And that's what's inside here in this repository. This is a way that we are, it's a way of controlling the deployment and customizing it, but making a very reproducible deployment, which is not to underestimate. So this is just a basic Helm chart. You have a charts YAML, values.yaml. This is a lot of what we'll be working on to adapt it to our application. So I will adapt my chart YAML for my View Parquet application. So View Parquet, an interactive, basic things that you can all read through here. So I'll put in the app version. So that's the one that I just pulled here for my container repository. That's the one that I'm running. So I know this one works. I've tested it. All right, that's great. So, and then I will put in the values YAML. Be like, okay, pull from my container repository, because I know that's anyone, anywhere, or even just a pod on a Kubernetes cluster can also do that. It can pull that and it can build it and run it. And I will tell the pods as well, port out here on 3838, which is also what my application, that's what it needs in order to open up and be viewable, basically. So there's an additional part which the documentation also goes into. It's in the values.schema.json. This is sort of a way that the EDITO platform uses. These are inputs from the user interface that can also go into the Helm chart deployment. So when you see some of the services on EDITO, so you see, for example, that it has, that I can choose this, that I can choose the version. You can choose the S3 configuration, friendly name. These are the things that are in the values.json. But more or less, what I think is important, if you have another version of your package that users would know or be acquainted with, include it there, so that other users that, or in the worst case, that you publish a new version and then something goes wrong on it, but you're like, oh, but it doesn't matter. We can roll back to a previous version, 1.01. I know that one's working. Yeah, that's important. You have the in the templates, notes.text. This just shows a text to the users as your app's being run. If there's any necessary information you need to show other than here's the link where your application is being deployed, click on this when the app starts. This is, yeah, we're going to skim over this. This is just for the extras, for the people who are interested, but it's in the presentation. It's included there, and it's also in the README here on the repository. So, but I'm sure, at least for me, I haven't come into contact where this has been necessary yet. So now we've altered our chart.yaml. We've altered the values YAML, and we've changed the schema.json. So we've made some changes to the repository on our branch. But before we're going to commit and add the changes, we're going to check the format. There's a make file here, which is a way of running commands simply, but we need to run pre-commits beforehand because we're working with YAML files. And if anyone has worked with YAML, at least for me personally, the spacing and the syntax can be a bit tricky. It can be quite tricky to see just with the human eye. So when you run this pre-commits, it will check all the formatting for you and it makes everything good, because then you're going to add your changes, commit your awesome service, you'll push it onto your branch, and then you're going to go here and you'll see in your branch, you'll see a pipeline running. You'll see these things happening. So even though if you've checked the format, then this step will be fine. Linting the charts will also be fine because you've run the make check format. Uploading into the database should also go fine. But if something happens to go wrong, look in the logs. There are logs here and you can send the error to Mercator Ocean. So the email that I'll include at the end of this presentation, you can send it to them and they can help debug it further. But if you've done these steps up until now, so that you've made your charts, you've altered these things, you've checked the format, and and the pipeline is still failing, you can for sure message them. They will help you further. And then, yeah, you just have to wait about 5 to 10 minutes, and then your service will be here in the service catalog in the playgrounds. And then once your service is mature, once you're happy with that, you can submit a merge request so that your branch will come on to main, and then you migrate out of the service playground and you migrate here into ocean data quality, ocean modeling, whatever, once your playground application has matured. Yeah. Sorry that it's a lot of information. It's stuff that's it's a stark contrast from what we were dealing with the modeling there and biology deep dive. But this is how we can share it with a lot of people and deploy it on EDITO.